I'm sure they were all good things he said about me. The short version is I'm Stavros. I'm a senior user researcher and a Google Design Sprint Master. So I come all the way here from sunny, warm London. By the way, I'm Greek, so if you don't understand my accent, please stop and ask. I'll try and have time at the end for questions as well. So I come here from London to talk to you about and demonstrate why user research is an essential ingredient for your design, and hopefully motivate you and inspire you enough, give you enough practical tips to actually start trying it for yourself. Now it's your turn to tell me why you're here and who you are. Can I please have you stand up if you have heard about usability testing, user research before? Stand up. I can see you. Thank you. I appreciate it's been a long day and I'm keeping you from... No, stay up, stay up. Thank you. And I'm keeping you from happy hour as well. Can you please stay standing if you've observed anyone doing user research? Sit down if you haven't observed user research. Fantastic. And then stay standing if you've done user research yourself. Great. Yeah, you've done some. Fantastic, thank you. You can sit now. That's really good spread in the room. So some people haven't heard about user research, usability testing, so I'm going to introduce you to that. For those who have seen it and who have observed it, I may have some observations that may be a bit controversial. We can discuss about our differences of how we do user research. So the first thing to get out of the way is that you can't leave it for too late. If you get to the point, and I'm sure you had this before, where you say, oh, the product is not up to, our benchmark is not up to standard, then it's become too expensive to fix. So you have to go all the way back to the beginning, but that doesn't mean that you add it as a feature. Usability is not a feature you can just add and say, okay, we'll just make sure that it's a requirement, that it's easy to use. You have to embed it. You have to embed it in your process, and you have to use user research to define your product from the beginning and all the way through. Another thing I would like to get out of the way is that it's not about what people like or dislike or what people would like to have. This is not us going out to people and telling them what a good product is. We're going out to people and see if our product actually works. And if they can use it, it works. If they can't, then it doesn't. So essentially what user research is about eliminating or reducing risk in your process of building your product. And I'm sure you've heard about this before, but have you ever been in meetings that kind of last forever? You're going in cyclical conversations about what you should do, about a feature, about an aspect of your product, or maybe you are about to launch and suddenly there is a decision telling you, no, you should go back and recode, redevelop, redesign stuff. And this is what we're trying to avoid. This is what I mean about reducing risk. It's about empowering you, the designers, the developers, the researchers in the room, to actually make the right decisions when it comes to building the right product, and the right decisions to build the product right as well. So, you know all of that. I'm sure you've come across this before. It's all about learning. It's all about learning through the process. But we're going to specifically talk about how user research can help you learn, because this is where it comes into the agile process, if you like. And there are three different ways I'm going to talk today about why user research is important. It's about understanding people. I'm going to go a bit more into that. About refining concepts early in your development life cycle, and about improving your existing products and services. And it's not choosing one over the other. You need all of three, and you need to deploy them at the right part of your life cycle. So if we start with first, understanding people. What do we mean by that? Understanding the motivations, understanding how people work, understand what are the tasks that people need to do just before, while they engage in your service and after, and get into their minds so we can serve them better. I don't know if you heard about this experiment. I think it was in a supermarket, and this researcher, Iyengar and Lepper, they put out jars of jam, and some days they had 6 jars with 6 different flavors, and some days they had 24 jars, 24 different flavors, and they were measuring to see how many people stop and ask, and they were also measuring how many people buy. So if you haven't heard of this, the big difference here is that although 40% of people stopped for the 6 jars and 60 of the 24 jars. The people who actually bought, there was a huge difference. Only 3% bought for the 24 jars. And there is a good reason for that, because we have this loss of fear of loss. So if we were presented with too many options, we don't want to make the wrong one. We don't want to lose out for the choice we didn't make. So when I have 24 jars and I'm thinking, should I buy the cherry strawberry or should I buy the strawberry apple? Or maybe the strawberry apple. And then at the end I say, you know what, I'll just have to think about it and come back. If you have 6 flavors and you think, yeah, no, I like cherry better than strawberry, and they go ahead and they buy it. So what's the point of this? It's like, for your product, which are your 6 flavors? If you have to strip it down, if you have to take features away, which are the ones that are essential? And how do you decide so that people can actually act the way you want them to? Another example here is, oh, that's the reverse, isn't it? There you go. I gave you the secret first. The other one is when you go to an ATM to get cash. I haven't actually managed to get here in Russia yet to get money. Is that the process you go through? You enter the card, yeah? Yeah, so it works pretty well, doesn't it? But it didn't used to be the case. It used to be that you get the cash first when they first developed, and then you remove the card. Can you imagine what happened? Yeah, you forget the card. And again, there's a very good reason for that. Because when you go to an ATM, what do you have, your goal you have in mind, get cash, is not, I want to go and put the card in so I can take it back. That's not my goal. So anything that comes after this is called the post-goal completion task. So anything that comes after your goal is very likely that you forget. So again, what's the point and reference for you is not just about what features you have, but it's about the journey you design. What's the process and the tasks and that you want users to go through your journey, so that they act again the way you want them to, and they don't forget things or go down the wrong way. And then finally, think about, you may have heard about personas and about profiles and all different words that describe people. The important thing that I want to get across here is understanding, because you want to engage with a specific demographic, a group of people that behave in different ways. And what you want to identify is what are the dimensions of behavior that matter when it comes to interacting with your product. And then through research understand what are the types of people who may have different types of behavior. Is it about taking risk? Or is it somebody who is risk averse? Is it about somebody who may be easily stressed, or somebody who is resilient to stress? What are these dimensions that then you can decide which one is your primary persona, if you like, that you're trying to design for, and understand how you inform your product through that. So that's about understanding people. Then about refining concepts. This is about starting early with the research. Can anyone tell me what this is? Any guesses?
Emergency alarm.
Huh?
Emergency alarm.
Yes. It is also how you operate a toilet door on a train in the UK. And it's embedded with the fire alarm. So you're there thinking, I don't want anyone to see me pee, but I don't want the train to stop and firemen to come and take me out of the toilet because I operated the alarm. And what the designer here did, thought, okay, well, it doesn't work very well. We have one button for opening and closing the door and one for locking. It sounds reasonable. But then they found out that they had to add instructions underneath that to explain it. And actually they had to then have more instructions to explain the instructions. So the idea is that now this is a physical product as well. And they put it out there, and there are a lot of embarrassing moments happening on trains, and it's very expensive to go back and change it. Well, they have been changing it, and now we have something that's a lot more usable. So you have 3 functions, 3 buttons: open, close, lock, unlock. And also you have you see the top one is illuminated when the door is unlocked, which means you can operate it. You can press this button and open it. Now that it's locked, you can't. With the benefit of hindsight, it seems very simple, of course, why wouldn't you? But these things they could have tested on paper. They could have tested on a mock-up early on and get away from having to redevelop the concept. So when it comes to your product, again, start early. Will your users get your concept? Don't go too far into development before you actually make sure that they understand it and they can use it. There are lots of things you can do before getting into code. And the third thing is about how do we improve? Because that's all fine, Stavros, thank you very much. We already have a product, we have a service, we don't have the luxury of going back. But you can use user research to improve your existing products and services. And we will go more into depth how you can do that in a minute. This is now a little bit old, but it is an actual website. And it's obviously selling a lot of stuff. The question is, what are the things we want people to buy? What are the things we think people want to buy? And how do we make, again, those improvements from here on to be able to have a product that is more usable? And by more usable, going back again, it's not about what people like or what people don't like. It's about, can they use it? Oh, you can't see that very well. Can they use it as you want them to use it? Because let's be honest, you have a business and you want people to act in certain ways when they come to your service, to your app, to your website, to your product. So will they use it the way you intended them to, or will they get lost, go down a different path? And finally, will they be frustrated while they do it? Will they be going on Twitter and venting about how unusable your product is? So this is how you can improve, but how can you actually do it? So we talked about why it's important, but what can you actually do? Some people who have done user research, please correct me when I step out of line. There's a lot of methodologies, right? I'm not going to go through that. I want to simplify that. This is by Christian Roher. But I want to simplify it and make it focus on two dimensions. One is, are we looking at what people do, or are we asking what people say? There's a huge difference between those two. And the other is, are we answering the question of how many and how much? 60% of people clicked on that button. It cost $500 to the conversion, not having this or that. Or are we trying to answer the question of why do people behave the way they do, and how can we actually fix it? There's not one better than the other, but they have distinct benefits. So if we look at the side of how many and how much, answering those questions, large-scale market research usually is about what do people say, and we ask loads of them. So what would you use this product? How much would you pay for that product? Ask thousands of people. You can do A/B testing. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with that, where you have a product to different designs, you put it live, lots of users that can tell you, and then you actually see what people do, not what they say. And then on the other side, you can do co-design, where you get people into the same room, and users and designers together, and you discuss about different options, and they tell you. It's like a little bit like focus groups with activities. Or what I'm going to be focusing more about is observing what people do rather than what people say in a small scale. And by being small scale means you can really probe about the why of the behavior, understand what it is that drives them to act in certain ways when they interact with your product. And that can give you the answers of how you can change it, so that you can get them to use it the way you want them to use it without being frustrated. So, introduction to usability testing. Every product is usability tested, as my friend Danielle says. Some teams call it launch. The point he's making here is that if you don't do it with, oh, it didn't come up, there we go. If you don't do it in your controlled environment, it will happen. When you put it out there, people will try and use it, and sometimes they will fail, and sometimes they succeed. And you get to hear it on Twitter rather than in a room with a user in front of you giving you feedback. So, fundamentals. I've talked a lot about it so far, or I've talked around it a lot. It is essentially as simple as watch people use your product. Okay, happy hour, let's go. There is a catch. there's a catch that you can't get anyone. You have to recruit and get representative people and users before you actually get to watch them use your product. And mind you, if it's a mobile device, get them to use it on a mobile. If it's something that they're expected to be using when they are at a cafe or when they're waiting for the bus, try and do it in that environment. But also it's trying to understand, remember going back to those personas, understanding who is your target audience and getting those people in. The more niche you are, so if you're in the financial services and you're targeting hedge funders, you can't go and ask your mom to actually help you with user testing. You may have to use recruiters, you may have to try harder to get those representative users. And there's yet one more catch, which is you can't test everything. Well, you could, but it's going to take a lot of time, and if you hire me, it's going to take a lot of money. So you have to be able to identify what are your riskiest assumptions. And one way of doing it is thinking about how uncertain are we about certain features or aspects of our product today. And the other is if we get it wrong, what's going to be the negative impact on our business, on the user, which is going to be eventually in our business. So here in red, you can start identifying the ones that are both were quite uncertain and quite fearful that if we got it wrong, it's going to be a problem. So this is what you start focusing on when you do research. And then you repeat that. You learn. So say you're able to test a couple of those assumptions, you make your improvements, and you come back. It doesn't make sense to do it once. Your product is Facebook thing says that, never done. It's true. So, a couple of caveats. Don't cheat. It's easy to cheat. We have this thing called confirmation bias, where when you use Google and you just click on the first link that says what you always wanted to hear. So we have this thing where we ignore things that don't comply with what we already believe, and we focus on the ones that confirm, if you like, our beliefs. And that can creep in when you're doing usability testing. So identifying your risky assumptions, you can say, I'm the expert, I know it works, so let's not bother testing that. Or the boss likes that, or the boss is there and says, I like that, let's not test it. Truly challenge yourselves and say, do we have evidence that this thing works? Have we seen it working in different contexts, and is our context the same as that context? The other one is when you recruit users. I already touched on this. You can't just take your geek roommate, test something that you want the general public to be able to use. And you can't have anyone who is too close to the product, somebody who understands how this thing works, because once it's out, and people who see it for the first time, they're not going to react the same way that for you guys who are very close to the product. And finally, when it comes to watching people, bad user research would be, it's a cool feature, isn't it? It took me weeks to build it. Do you like it? Do you like it? It was really difficult. Of course they're going to say yes. Of course they're going to try and please you. They're not going to embarrass you. And if you also intervene when people are using your product and say, no, you don't need to click there. Go back. Tell me this one. If you click there, is that what you want to do? So leading. So all of these things can creep in, and the more user research you do, you more you know how to not do these things. And the final thing about cheating is not doing it. We don't have time this sprint. Let's not do it this sprint. We don't have time for that. It's like we don't have time to ask for directions. We're going down the wrong route. Let's go there quicker because we don't have time. So these are the things, and there are often good reasons why this gets in the way, but this is a way of cheating for the user research. So that's kind of the overview of usability testing, and then I've promised to you that I'm going to talk about design sprints as well, briefly. And I think the way I say it is that design sprints are like making usability testing a team sport. It's a lot more effective when it's when you don't do it on your own. So I would really recommend that you try and get more and more people on board. So if you haven't come across it, it's a framework. It's a lot of different frameworks kind of converge into the same principles. And what it is and it's a team activity that it's about solving product or service challenges, and it can take, I think, 2 to 5 days. I've heard and read that you can do it in 2 hours. I don't believe it. It's a big commitment. It's one of the reasons why a lot of teams don't do it, because you need a lot of people in the team to be actually present and commit the time for a number of days. And I'm going to go through those stages one by one, explain a bit more of the types of activities you could be doing. So if we start with the first one, it's understanding and defining. It's going back to what are the riskiest assumptions. How do you focus your first cycle of solving problems? What problems do you want to solve? Is the product failing somewhere? Maybe you have data, maybe you have analytics telling you there is a particular part of the journey where it's not going as anticipated. Or you know that there is something that you could be doing better. Or you have done this exercise or a similar exercise to identify what don't we have evidence about that we need to know about more. And therefore the whole understand is exploring the problem space, so you can end by a definition of your problem that you're going to spend the following few days solving. One good exercise to do while you're exploring the problem space is use a how might we type of questions. When you have a statement like the checkout is rubbish, it's very constrictive. I think, statements confine you and tell you that this is a problem. When you phrase it as a question, it opens up and opens up the possibilities. So it could be, how might we improve the checkout flow? Which then you can either abstract and say, how might we get more conversions, more money? Or you can make more specific, how might we add more, get people to add more products in the checkout process. So with these how might we's, you have lots of people working independently in the same room, then you put them up on the wall, you compare, you create clusters, and you start voting, and you say, okay, this is the problem. You end up with a defined bit here, say this is the problem we're going to work in this sprint, in this design sprint. And then you go to diverge and decide. This is where you explore the problem space. And again, it's been proven again and again through research that the best, most creative solutions come when people start working independently and then come together. So, and also having lots of different, exploring lots of different ideas before you get kind of locked into one. Oh, something didn't come up here. So, ideally you start with low fidelity and you have each individual in the room, you have your product manager, delivery manager, everyone is part of this, not just the designers. Exploring lots of different solutions, very low fidelity. How can we solve this problem? Sometimes it may not even be a sketch of a UI, it can be a sentence, it can be a diagram. How do we approach this problem? Different ideas. Then you sell back to the room, you again maybe do some dot voting, do some debating, facilitator keeps it on time, and then you start refining it a bit more, and then again cluster, dot voting, ask which one do we think is proving more promising and why, and this is how you get to the decide and say, okay, we defined our problem, explore the problem space, defined our problem, we explore the solution space, and we decided which one you're going ahead with. And then it's the easy bit, it's the bit that you do anyway all the time. You actually build the thing, and then you validate it. So again, if the solution you're exploring is more to do with a concept, is it it's going to be 3 buttons and a lock unlock? Is it going to be 2 buttons and all of that? You can go low fidelity when you go on your testing. You can have paper prototypes, or you can have mock-ups, or maybe you are designing micro interactions. Maybe you want to see how the specifics of an interface work or don't work, and then you develop according fidelity. Here's the big difference is invite everyone, observe testing. So I think I've heard somebody has the rule of you can't be part of the definition of the solution if you don't attend at least one user testing session every time we do it. So find ways, get good pizza, whatever gets people in. And here, I don't know if you've seen that before, it's that one-way mirror. You have the user at the back with the facilitator using the product, and you have the team where you can see in the big screens, you can see the interface they're using, and you can also have a kind of a war room situation. You can have post-its, and you can have doing analysis on the go at the end of each user's testing session. You can discuss what worked, what didn't work, and why. It's a collaborative team. And don't forget, again, you learn, improve, and you repeat. So I'm going to leave you with two kind of further reading advice that have really helped me. One is by Steve Krug, which is a Rocket Surgery Made Easy. It's a very good do-it-yourself usability testing kit. It has a lot of practical advice, both on how to set it up, how to recruit people, templates for recruiting, templates for facilitating, type of questions to ask, type of questions to avoid. And it also helps with the reporting side of it and getting people on board. It's very practical, very hands-on. And also you have more on the sprint side. It's like Knapp did this book some time ago now, and it's focused on the 5-day sprint. I think it's probably one of the most effective ways of doing it, but it costs a lot in terms of the people, because you need to have, to do the sprint, you need to have the right people in the room throughout. Decision makers, developers, designers, everybody has to be on board. So have a look, and hopefully I've motivated you enough, inspired you enough, given you enough to actually make some cultural changes in your organization, and hopefully start doing these three things. Yeah, I haven't seen yet any context or situation where user research can't help you. You may have to adapt it, you may have to adapt who gets involved, how much you spend on it, how often you do it, but enterprise is not any different to a small kind of startup, to a small app. You would say it's even more important because it's bigger bucks involved. So I don't know if whoever asked the question want to elaborate why you think it might not.
There's one.
Yeah?
That was my question.
Yes.
So I'm not a designer, I'm from developer sphere, so we are trying to inspect our current processes and to figure out how should we build our product. So that question comes from there. So I was wondering how it doesn't fit with business analytics. So design and business analytics, that's parallel or?
It is. And it's often in small teams as well. Business analysts and user researchers may clash, and they may kind of say, "Oh no, but I'm doing this bit." And it's fair that you can have some overlap. I think the expertise of the user researcher is not to say, "I know best, let's do it this way." Say, "I know best how to get the answer from the users." So again, going back to the debates of should it be this way, should it be that way, let's have a 6-hour meeting. You go back and say, okay, no, let's do instead some user research. And I've seen again and again, at least the business analysts who are open to understanding it.
So should business analytic do user research, or does it for some other role? User researcher maybe?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and I think Rolf Molich, one of the idols in that space, has been advocating for a long time that usability testing is a very resilient process. So if somebody doesn't do it very well, you will still get something useful back from it. So, and that's why I'm saying that everyone in this room, if you want to give it a go, give it a go. Obviously, if you have a user researcher who's been doing it for a bit longer, they will do it better, and you will get more value for the time you're putting in. You will have less biased, if you like, insights. But if a business analyst is keen on doing it, and if they don't fall into those pitfalls and don't lead and they don't cheat about who recruit, anyone can do it. A professional user researcher will do it better. If you have a user researcher in the team, what they should be trying to do is get the business analyst to attend, involve them in the process, Tell them why you are recruiting the people you're recruiting. Tell them why, or involve them in the decision of what you should be testing, and have them observe the testing, so then you come back and you align on the feedback that you got rather than the opinions that have been floating beforehand. Yeah? Thank you.
Есть еще, да, вопросы? Давайте озвучим их в микрофон так, чтобы все слышали.
If you're like small company and you want to make and you're creating an app, you need to make a test, but you don't have like money or possibilities to seek for a test group. What should you do? What should you like make in the start of the project, not on the stage when you release beta or alpha?
Yeah, do it yourself. So you don't have money. You can buy the book. It's not my book, by the way. I don't have any royalties, but it's a very practical book. And you may not have. If you don't have money and you don't have time, then you're kind of stuck. You're just gonna go with what you have. But if you have time, you train yourself up, and you try it. You're gonna get something good back at the end. So at the beginning, where you don't even have necessarily an alpha, it may be more that you do interviews with people. So you sit them down, and that takes a little bit more skill because you don't have something to put in front of them. But if you have concepts and paper prototypes, you put them in front of them and you ask them, what do you think that is? What do you think that does? What would you do next? And you get them to talk, to think out loud, and you have something to go back and do a more informed alpha with less risk, and then repeat the process again. There is also a cost, I appreciate, with recruitment and finding the people, and you may have to get a bit kind of creative there. Bake some cupcakes, maybe promise people something that is a commodity to you. Maybe if you have credits for if you have a product, you can offer them that. Try and entice people to come in different ways. It may have to be what they call sometimes guerrilla usability testing on it. So this is kind of, yes, this is the proper way of doing it. Discounting it and doing it, you can't go too far. If you discount it too much, it's not useful. But as again, it's a resilient process. So try and do as much as you can yourself, and hopefully you can then demonstrate to the people who hold the budget, even if it's a small team, that it is useful. And then they train you up better, or you get a consultant and do around, and hopefully they will train you in the process as well.